going to present to you the results of my high performance leadership project. If you remember, I did an initial presentation of this in the middle of the summer of last year.
One second, Veronica, sorry.
This doesn't count.
Yeah, I stopped the time.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the project, give you a recap of the project. I'm going to talk about any obstacles that I incurred, and I'll share with you some of the learning from that. Carabram is, just to give you a recap, is where people in the communities come together to showcase the best of their culture, their traditions, their folklore, music, dance. And I've been a part of Carabram for off and on for 5 years. I volunteered at the Canadian Pavilion, and this year I got this email of desperation from one of my friends, Ian. Please, please, please come and help the Caribbean Pavilion. And of course, I had nothing else to do in my busy life, and I just said yes. And so I was a volunteer youth coordinator of the Caribbean Pavilion. And what did that mean? Does that mean? Well, I had the responsibility of recruiting young people from the community to come and help the Caribbean. It meant that I had to go and visit some of the local schools, let them know about Carabram, and ensure that they would post information on their news feed so that students would be aware of Carabram and would want to come and volunteer to get their community service hours. And once I got a number of students showing interest, it was my responsibility to vet them and to then orientate them to the needs of the pavilion. So some of the responsibilities included students being a part of setting up the pavilion, taking down the pavilion, students coming and participating as part of security. They could also have roles in terms of supervising children that would be a part of the pavilion, as well as helping with food, in terms of transferring food from the kitchen to the vending areas where food was being sold, and generally help all of the other committees that were part of the pavilion. So what were some of the obstacles that I ran into? Well, as I said initially, Carabram has been a part of the Brampton community for 30 years. And so what I found with the Caribbean Pavilion is there were a number of veteran volunteers that were a part of that pavilion who had been volunteers for 10, maybe 15 years or so. And they had their own systems in place, their own procedures, and they demonstrated to me a little bit of stereotyping, and I had to really sit down and think about how I was going to deal with that stereotyping. That stereotyping was more about, who the hell are you coming in and with your bright new ideas? So there was that I had to deal with. And also the stereotyping of the young people. Well, we don't want those young people. All they do is stand around on their phones. They don't do anything. They don't help. And I don't want them on my committee. I have my own volunteers. So it's some of that kind of attitude that I had to work with. And so coming in as a new person, did I want to push that? Or did I want to, I had to figure out how I was going to work with that. And so the best thing I thought that I could do was to make sure that I recruited mature students, mature young people, and to make sure that I orientated them in a way that they had tools that they could do the best possible job. And so I didn't create this, but I gathered the information together to put together an orientation package. And as a part of the orientation package, once I met with the young people, I discussed the code of conduct, hours of operation, appropriate dress and appearance, so pants on the ground was not allowed. We talked about, you know, for 4 hours, you're volunteering for 4 hours. If you want to volunteer for a little bit longer, you or do another shift, you can certainly do that, but you can put your phones away for 4 hours. So we talked about that. I talked about safety regulations, walked them through the pavilion, volunteer expectations, and what to do if somebody was inebriated. So I made sure that they had the tools that would allow them to do the best job possible. And here, here's a little bit of the Caribbean Pavilion, and I will give you a little bit of a demonstration so that you get a better picture in a moment. Obstacles. What were some of the obstacles that I had? What was the learning? The number one thing that I learned from this experience was that volunteering is a reciprocal process. That yes, you volunteer, you give something, but you also get something back. And what you get back is things that kind of feed your ego. So you get back things that, you know, in terms of your self-esteem, your self-worth, your confidence, validation, power, empowerment, etc. So those are the things that you get back, and those things kind of feed your ego. And so as a team leader, one of the things that I needed to be aware of was my own ego, but also to be able to manage other people's egos as well, because sometimes egos can be bigger or they could be smaller in terms of people acting out their personal issues. And so as a leader, I had to manage some of that, not so much with the young people, but more so with the older adults that had been around for a long time. And so I was managing that. And how did I do that, or how do you do that as a leader? I think you do that by always holding the bigger picture and always presenting the bigger picture and always carrying that bigger picture as to what the project is all about. So I'd like to bring you a taste of the Caribbean Pavilion and also a taste of the Caribbean on this very cold, snowy day. I don't care about that. I'd like to
Just do my job.
showcase us a little bit of the Caribbean Pavilion before I go. Can I have the YouTube video?
We'll get it up there in a second, sorry.
I can dance for you, but... Keep going. Of the Carabram, and she said, Brampton's Multicultural Friendship Festival is a commitment to you is this. For as long as Carabram is around, and it may not be around with our new mayor, who doesn't like Carabram, it will always endeavor to represent and reflect all that is good about humanity. We will always focus on people who are proud of their heritage and are proud to be Canadians.
Excellent.
So there you go, that's Carabram.